Alrighty, folks, you know I'm feeling great on a Sunday morning because we cashed in on 6 winning tickets on my premium page for Saturday with one game still in progress. We had Liberty in college basketball, St. John's, Loyola Chicago, Colorado Buffaloes, Kansas, and Arkansas. And the only way you could have cashed in on all those winners is to join my full access, all-inclusive Gold Club membership. And I'll explain a little bit more about all that in just a moment. But before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick time out and welcome you to my free pick video here today for Sunday, March 9th, 2025. Happy Sunday to you. Hopefully you're having a great weekend. And of course, if you're joining me for the first time here today, my name is Brock Page. I've been dishing out free sports picks on YouTube since 2016. And once again, folks, if you sign up for my full access, all-inclusive Gold Club membership, you're going to get access to every single premium selection of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. Of course, if you don't need access to all of my premium selections, but maybe you could use like one a day, my daily play, so excited, can't even talk. My daily best play, it costs just 6 cents a day for 30 days worth of access. You know what? My subconscious, it's so cheap, I didn't want to tell you about it. But of course, as always, I have plenty of free content on my premium page as well. You can access free content without having to pay for anything. I currently have over 2,150 members who are signed up and active on that page right now. And actually, part of my free content is my overall win-loss record. You can access that right now in the post section. Don't have to pay to look at that. You can see my overall record in every single package. And with that, folks, let's go ahead and dive into some free content. Going to start off in college basketball. Shorter slate in college basketball, not a whole lot of games in the NBA. So we're actually including some NHL games. Finding out that 30 games I'm handicapping on these videos. That's kind of the sweet spot for views. So I'd like to get to at least 30 games. So we got some college basketball, some NBA, and some NHL. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to start off with Drexel taking on Towson. That's going to be a 12 o'clock Eastern tip-off in the Care First Arena in D.C. It's a 1 versus 8 matchup in the CAA. Towson's -3, totals 122.5. The Tigers are 21-10 on the year. Drexel's 18-14 themselves. Now the Dragons have also covered in 65% of their ball games. They've been a pretty good covering team this year. They actually went 7-3 against the spread in their last 10. Now the Dragons are allowing only 66 points a game on defense, top 40 in the nation in blocks. When it comes to guarding the deep ball, well, Drexel limits opposing shooters to just 6 made 3 balls a game. Now, Towson on the other side, well, they failed to cover in 5 out of their last 9 themselves. Actually having a bit of a tough time getting to the basket. The Tigers average only 69 points a game, just 41% shooting from the field. Towson also has difficulties getting to the foul line. They're currently 310th in free throws made per game. Now, Towson saw unders in 5 out of their last 9, throwing out that Hampton game. Meanwhile, Drexel contest went 5-4 to the under in their last 9 themselves. I like Drexel +3, under 122.5. Next contest, Navy Bucknell, 12 o'clock East. Bucknell's -6, totals 140. The Bison are 18-14 on the year, 12-3 straight up at home. Bucknell's also covering in 66% of their games. Now, Navy on the other side, just 14-18 themselves, 5-11 on the road. When it comes to shooting the basketball, the midshipmen are 312th in offensive field goal percentage. And they're taking on a red-hot Bucknell school on the other side, who's currently on an 8-game winning streak. They also went 80% against the point spread in their last 10. Noah Williamson averages 17 points a game, 7.6 boards per contest as well. And Josh Basco averages over 15.5 points per contest himself, just about 40% shooting from three-land. Now, both teams saw overs in 6 out of their last 10, respectively. I like Bucknell -6 over 140. All right, next game, Michigan taking on Michigan State. That'll be a 12 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Michigan State's -6.5, totals 147. Now, the under cashed in these teams' last 3 head-to-head gatherings. Of course, Michigan State games went 8-2 to the under in their last 10. The Spartans are currently limiting opposing shooters to just 28% from beyond the arc. Meanwhile, Michigan games went 60% to the under in their last 10 themselves. The Wolverines are holding their opponents to just 40% from the field. They got really good size. I like the under 147. Next contest, some more Big Ten action. Iowa, Nebraska, 12:30 p.m. East. Nebraska's 6.5, totals 155 and a hook. Nebraska's 17-13 on the year, 10-5 at home. The Huskers are averaging 76 points a game, and they're led by Bryce Williams, who averages 20 points a night, 90% from the foul line. Of course, Jawan Gary, he's scoring over 13.5 points a game himself. They're taking on an Iowa program who lost 8 out of their last 10, failed to cover in all of those games except for one. The Hawkeyes are currently giving up 80 points per contest, bottom 10 in defensive field goal percentage. Defensive play has been a bit of a disaster for the Hawkeyes. Now, no real surprise here. The Hawkeyes are allowing the 6th most field goals per game in the country. Iowa saw overs recently versus Michigan State, Washington, and Maryland. Meanwhile, Nebraska games went 6-3 to the over in their last 9. I like Nebraska -6.5, over 155 and a hook. Next game, ECU taking on Florida Atlantic, 1 o'clock East. FAU's -5, totals 152.5. Florida Atlantic 16-14, 7-5 at home. East Carolina's 18-12 themselves, but just 4-5 on the road. When it comes to covering the point spread, well, the Pirates failed to cover in 6 out of their last 9. Having a tough time shooting the long ball this year. ECU's making just 31% of their attempts from 3 land. And they're taking on a Florida Atlantic team who got the W in 6 out of their last 10, averaging nearly 80 points a game this year on offense. Now, total-wise, oddly enough, 4 out of the Owls' last 5 did stay under the line. Meanwhile, East Carolina saw unders recently versus Tulane, Rice, and South Florida. Give me FAU -5, under 152. Next game, going back into some more Big Ten action, Minnesota taking on Rutgers, 1 o'clock East. Rutgers is -5, totals 143.5. The Scarlet Knights saw overs in their last 4 straight, 318th in points allowed. Meanwhile, Minnesota on the other side, they saw overs recently with Northwestern, Illinois, and Washington. They're actually 304th in the country in defensive turnovers. I like the over 143.5. All right, next matchup. Not on our big screen behind me, but it's going to be North Alabama taking on Lipscomb. That'll be a 2 o'clock Eastern tip. Oh, no, there it is. North Alabama taking on Lipscomb, 2 o'clock East. Lipscomb's -5.5, totals 144 and a hook. This is a 1 versus 2 matchup in the A-Sun. Lipscomb's 24-9 on the year, 14-3 at home. North Alabama 24-9 themselves, but just 7-8 on the road. And even though there's really not a ton to nitpick about when it comes to this Lions team, they did fail to cover recently versus Queens College and this very Lipscomb team. That was actually a 12-point loss to the Bisons, where they were held to only 63 points. And speaking of the Bisons, Lipscomb is currently on a 5-game winning streak, 9-1 straight up in their last 10. Lipscomb averages nearly 80 points a game on offense, 12th in fewest turnovers a game. Very careful with the ball in their hands. Jacob Ognjusevich scores 20 points a game, 40% from 3 land. Will Pruitt averages 13 points per contest himself, 5.8 rebounds a night. Lipscomb games went 6-3 to the over in their last 9. North Alabama saw overs recently versus Austin Peay and Central Arkansas. Give me Lipscomb -5.5, over 144 and a hook. Next contest, a little Patriot League action. Colgate American, 2 o'clock East. American University is -1, totals 137. Americans 20-12 on the year, 12-2 at home. Colgate just 14-18 themselves, 4-12 on the road. When it comes to covering the number, the Raiders failed to cover in 7 out of their last 10. Having a tough time guarding the 3-ball. Matter of fact, Gate's currently in the bottom 5 in defensive 3-point percentage. And they're taking on an American squad who won 7 out of their last 10. Doing a nice job on defense. The Eagles give up just 67 points a game, 17th in 3 balls allowed. Now, oddly enough, American saw overs recently versus Lafayette, Army, and Lehigh. Meanwhile, Colgate games went 7-2 to the over in their last 9. I like American -1 over 137. Next contest, UAB-TULN, 2 o'clock Eastern tip. UAB's -3.5, totals 157 and a hook. UAB saw unders recently versus Wichita State, Temple, and North Texas. Tulane saw unders with East Carolina, Texas San Antonio, and Memphis. Pretty high number on the total here. I like the under 157.5. All right, next matchup, North Texas taking on Temple, 2 o'clock East. North Texas is -5.5 away from home, totals 136. The Mean Greens 23-6 on the year, 7-4 on the road. Temple's 16-14 themselves, losing record against the point spread. Of course, more recently, the Owls dropped 6 out of their last 8. Having a tough time on the defensive end of the floor. They're allowing over 78 points a game, 319th in field goals allowed. And they're facing a North Texas team who definitely shoots it well from 3-land and the stripe. The Mean Greens making over 77% of their free throws. But the real strength of this North Texas team is their defensive effort. The Mean Green allows just 59 points a game. They're second in the country in field goals allowed, only behind Houston. Now, North Texas games went 60% to the under in their last 10. Temple saw unders recently with South Florida and UAB. I like North Texas -5.5, under 136. All right, next game, Tulsa, Wichita State, 2 o'clock East. Wichita's -11, totals 143.5. Wichita State, 18-12 on the year, 11-5 at home. Tulsa just 11-19 themselves, 2-8 on the road. The Golden Hurricanes in the middle of a 4-game skid, just 2-8 straight up in their last 10. Tulsa allows nearly 75 points a game, 302nd in defensive boards. They're facing a Wichita team on the other side who's a top 50 rebounding team on offense. Of course, as a unit, the Shockers got the W in 7 out of their last 10. They covered the point spread in 80% of those games. Xavier Bell averages 15 points a game, 88% from the foul line. And Corey Washington scores 13 points a game himself, 7.6 rebounds a night. Now, Wichita saw overs recently with North Texas, Tulane, and Memphis. Meanwhile, Tulsa games went 5-3 to the over in their last 8. I like Wichita State -11 over 143.5. All right, next matchup, little Big Ten action. Oregon, Washington, 3 o'clock East. Oregon's -6.5, totals 146. The Ducks are 22-8 on the year, 600 win percentage on the road. Washington just 13-17 themselves, losing record against the number. And more recently, the Huskies are on a 5-game losing streak. They rank 321st in defensive field goal percentage. They're taking on an Oregon squad who averages 77 points a game themselves, 37th in the nation in shooting from the stripe. Jackson Shellstad averages over 13.5 points a game, 86% from the foul line. And Nate Biddle scores 13 points a game himself, 81% from the stripe. Oregon saw overs recently versus Northwestern, Michigan State, and Michigan. Meanwhile, Washington contests went 8-2 to the over in their last 10. I like Oregon -6.5, over 146. Next matchup, Texas San Antonio taking on Charlotte, 4 o'clock East. Utsa's -1 away from home, totals 148. Now the Roadrunners are 11-18 on the year, 3-11 on the road. Of course, more recently, UTA took the loss in 8 out of their last 10. They're 318th in defensive boards. They're also having a tough time getting shots off. The Roadrunners are in the bottom 25 in blocked shots per game. And they're facing a Charlotte team who covered in 5 out of their last 7. Covers against the likes of North Texas, East Carolina, and Temple. When it comes to guarding the long ball, they're holding their competition to just 6 made three-pointers a game. Now, total-wise, UTA contest went 6-3 to the under in their last 9. Give me Charlotte +1, under 148. Next game, Houston Christian taking on Texas A&M Corpus Christi, 6 o'clock Eastern tip. Corpus Christi's -6, totals 138. The Islanders are 19-13 on the year, 15-2 at home. Meanwhile, Houston Christian's just 12-19 themselves, 4-12 on the road. And more recently, the Huskies took the loss in 8 out of their last 10. They're 335th in defensive field goal percentage. They're facing an Islander team on the other side who's actually 12th in the country in shooting from the field. They could have a big day in this one. They're averaging over 76.5 points per contest. O&D shoots 40% from outside the arc, double-digit points a game. And Gary Clark's averaging over 14.5 points a game himself, 55% from the field. Now, Corpus Christi saw overs recently versus New Orleans, Stephen F. Austin, and East Texas A&M. Give me Corpus Christi -6, over 138. And with that, we're going to jump into our next and final breakdown for college basketball. Incarnate Word taking on Southeastern Louisiana, 8:30 Eastern tip-off in the Legacy Center. This is a 5-7 matchup in the Southland Conference. Southeastern Louisiana's -3, totals 139.5. The Lions are 18-13 on the year, covering in 69% of their games. Meanwhile, Incarnate Word 16-15 on the year, just 4-10 in their contest away from home. And even though the Cardinals do play well on defense, they have been a bit susceptible to the long ball. Incarnate Word's 324th in defensive three-point percentage. And they're facing a Southeastern Louisiana team who covered in 6 out of their last 9. They've also been dominant in this head-to-head series. The Lions actually got the W in their last 6 straight gatherings with Incarnate Word. Sam Hines Jr. leads the Lions with 16 points a game. Jacavian Buckley gets 14.5 points a night himself. 74% from the field. This guy cannot be stopped in the paint. Now, total-wise, 5 out of the Lions' last 6 did get over the total. I like Southeastern Louisiana -3, over 139.5. All right, NBA action. Nuggets Thunder, 1 o'clock East. Oklahoma City's -7, totals 242. Now, Thunder games went 7-2 to the over in their last 9. Overs against Houston, San Antonio, and Atlanta. Meanwhile, OKC is currently the best free throw shooting team in the association. Denver, on the other side, saw overs in 5 out of their last 9, throwing out that Sacramento game. The Nuggets are currently leading the league in field goals per contest. I like the over 242. Next matchup, Suns-Mavs, 3:30 p.m. East. Phoenix is -7, totals 228.5. The Suns saw overs in 6 out of their last 7. 4th in the league in shooting the deep ball. Meanwhile, the Mavs on the other side saw overs recently versus Miami and Milwaukee twice. The Mavericks are a top 10 three-point shooting team themselves. Give me the over 228.5. Next matchup, Grizzlies, Pelicans, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Memphis is -8.5, totals 234 and a hook. Memphis is 39-24 on the year, covering in nearly 60% of their contest. Meanwhile, Pelicans are 30 games under 500 themselves, 11-20 as the home team. The Pelicans are giving up nearly 120 points per contest, bottom 3 in defensive field goal percentage. And that's certainly bad news for them because Memphis makes more field goals a game than any other team besides Denver. They're also making more free throws per contest than any other team in the association. John Morant scores 21 points per contest. Desmond Bane's nearly 50% from the field. The Grizzlies saw overs recently versus Atlanta, San Antonio, and Phoenix. Meanwhile, the Pelicans saw a handful of overs in their last 10 themselves. Give me Memphis minus 8.5, over 234.5. Next game, Toilet Bowl, Jazz Sixers, 7:30 Eastern tip. Philadelphia is 7.5, totals 224. Now, Sixer games went 5-3 to the over in their last 8. Overs against the likes of Boston, Minnesota, and Golden State. Philly's currently dead last in defensive three-point percentage. Meanwhile, Utah on the other side, they've been a disaster on defense themselves. The Jazz allow 120 points a game, dead last in defensive turnovers. Their games also went 7-3 to the over in their last 10. I like the over 224. Next matchup, Cavaliers-Bucks, 8 o'clock East. Cleveland's minus 8, totals 237. The Cavs saw overs in 6 out of their last 10, first in the league in scoring. Meanwhile, Milwaukee saw overs recently versus the Mavericks, Hawks, and Heat. They're the second best three-point shooting team in the league. Give me the over 237. Next contest, Spurs, T-Wolves, 8 o'clock East. Minnesota's minus 10, totals 229. Minnesota's 7 games over 500, but they have a losing record against the point spread. Of course, more recently, the Timberwolves failed to cover against the likes of Miami, Utah, and the Lakers. They're 24th in field goals made. They're taking on a San Antonio squad who covered recently versus Brooklyn, Memphis, and Phoenix. You know, the Spurs do tend to stay out of foul trouble on defense. I know there's not a lot of positives when it comes to San Antonio, but they really don't send a whole lot of shooters to the stripe. They're actually 3rd in fewest free throws allowed per game. The Spurs contest went 60% to the under in their last 10. Minnesota saw unders recently versus Miami, Phoenix, and the Lakers. Give me San Antonio plus 10, under 229. Next game, Pistons, Blazers, 9 o'clock East. Detroit's the 2-point favorite away from home, totals 231. Folks, the Pistons are 7 games over 500, 18-14 on the road. Portland's just 28-36 themselves, losers of 3 out of their last 4. When it comes to offensive production, the Blazers are in the bottom 5 in turnovers, 24th in scoring. Meanwhile, Detroit on the other side, winners of 8 out of their last 10. Victories against the likes of Boston, LA Clippers, and Atlanta. Pistons are currently 7th in field goals allowed, 1st. That's right, 1st in defensive boards per game. Now, Detroit saw unders recently with Brooklyn, Boston, and San Antonio. Portland saw unders recently versus Oklahoma City, Philadelphia, and Utah. Give me the Pistons minus 2, under 231. And with that, folks, we're going to jump into our next and final breakdown for the video for the NBA. Stay tuned because we have NHL coming up. Kings, Clippers, 9:30 p.m. East. The Clippers are minus 5, totals 223.5. LA's 34-29 on the year. Sacramento 33-29 themselves. Of course, more recently, the Kings have been red hot against the point spread. They covered in their last 6 straight. 8-2 against the spread in their last 10. The Kings are a top 10 point-producing team, 2nd in shooting from the stripe. They're making just about 81% of their attempts from the line. DeMar DeRozan averages 22 points a game, 49% from the field. Domantas Sabonis makes 43% of his three-pointers, league leader in boards per game. They're facing a Clipper team who dropped 6 out of their last 9. Failed to cover in all of those contests except for 2. LA is currently a bottom 10 point-producing team, bottom 5 in 3 balls made. Now, the Clippers saw overs recently versus Detroit, Phoenix, and Chicago. Meanwhile, Sacramento saw overs recently with the Spurs, Warriors, and Pelicans. I like the Kings plus 5, over 223.5. All right, let's dive into some NHL action. It's rare, but we're going to handicap some NHL. You know, we do it every day on the premium page. We typically have at least one NHL premium selection, but we rarely do it on the free video because for as many years as I've did at NHL, we really struggled getting views. Not a lot of people watch those videos, but anyway, going to include it here today. Devils, Flyers, 1 o'clock Eastern puck drop. Jerseys -145, totals 5.5. Jacob Markstrom expected in the net for the Devils. Ivan Fedotov for Philadelphia. Now, Fedotov's got a goals against average in the threes, save percentage of .885. The Flyers actually dropped their last 3 straight, 14 total goals they allowed during that short span. And they're taking on a Devil squad who averages nearly 30 shots on goal a game, gives themselves plenty of opportunities to score. But, of course, the real strength of this Jersey team, it's been their defensive play. The Devils are 3rd in the league in goals allowed per contest. Defenseman Brendan Dillon's a +12 when he's on the ice. Jacob Markstrom's 21-12 with a .234 goals against average. Now, total-wise, oddly enough, the Devils did see overs in their last 2 straight. Overs against the likes of the Jets and Stars. Meanwhile, Philly contest went 4-3 to the over in their last 7 in the Wells Fargo Center. I like the Devils -145, over 5.5. Are they doing 2 games in Philly? Yeah, they're doing an early hockey game and then a basketball game at 7:30. Busy day for the folks working in the Wells Fargo Center. All right, next game, Penguins Wild, 3:30 p.m. East. Minnesota's $1.50, totals 5.5. Marc-Andre Fleury for the Wild. Alex Nedeljkovic for Pittsburgh. Now, we'll just call him Alex. He's got a .317 goals against average for Pittsburgh. Save percentage in the 800s. Of course, more recently, the Pens are on a 4-game skid. Losers of 8 out of their last 9. Now, Pittsburgh's in the bottom 3 in goals allowed per game on defense. And oddly enough, 4 out of Pittsburgh's last 5 on the road did stay under the total. Minnesota games went 3-1 to the under in their last 4 in their own barn. I like the Wild, -$1.50, under 5.5. Next game, Jets, Hurricanes, 5 o'clock Eastern puck drop. Carolina's $1.30, totals 5.5. Freddie Anderson for the Canes, Connor Hellebuck for Winnipeg. Hellebuck, man, 6 shutouts this season he posted. Goals against average of just .199. And no real shock here, out of the Jets' last 10 contests, the under cashed in 70% of those games. Meanwhile, Carolina contests went 7-3 to the under in their last 10 themselves. The Canes allow fewer pucks on net a game than any other team. Freddie Anderson has a .218 goals against average, .911 save percentage. Give me the under 5.5. Next contest, Blue Jackets, Rangers, 6 o'clock East. The Rangers are $1.50, total 6.5. Johnny Quick for the Rangers, Elvis Merzlikins for Columbus. Now, Elvis is 22-16 in the crease, goals against average of .299. When it comes to cashing in on the puck line, the Blue Jackets are covering in over 61% of their games this year. Pretty good puck line covering team. And I'll tell you, they're facing a Ranger squad on the other side who they've struggled cashing in on the puck line at home. The Rangers are just 12-20 against the number at Madison Square Garden. When it comes to defensive play, the Rangers are allowing nearly 31 pucks on net a game. Now, total-wise, the Rangers saw overs recently with Ottawa, Pittsburgh, and Buffalo. Meanwhile, Columbus games went 7-3 to the over in their last 10. I like the Blue Jackets +1.5, over 6.5 goals. All right, next matchup, Kings, Golden Knights, 8 o'clock East. Vegas is $1.65, totals 5.5. Aiden Hill for the Knights, David Riddick for Los Angeles. Now, Riddick's just 12-12 in the net with no shutouts on the year and an .887 save percentage. Now, when it comes to offensive production, the Kings are a bottom 10 goal-scoring team. They're taking on a Vegas squad on the other side who's tough to score against. They're allowing only 26 pucks on net a game, under 2.8 goals per contest they're allowing. And the Red Hot Golden Knights, they're currently on a 4-game winning streak, 7-1 straight up in their last 8. Now, the Golden Knights also, they've been tough to beat in Sin City this year. Vegas is 24-6-3 on their own ice. Defenseman Braden McNabb's a plus 33, second best in the NHL. And netminder Aiden Hill, he's 23-10 with a .250 goals against average. The Knights saw unders in 3 out of their last 5 at home, 60% to the under in their last 10 at any location. I like the Golden Knights minus 165, under 5.5. Next contest, Stars Canucks, 9 o'clock East. Dallas is $1.40, totals 5.5. Casey DeSmith for the Stars, Kevin Lankinen for Vancouver. Now the Canucks saw overs in 6 out of their last 10 meetings with Dallas. So if you're into historical trends, plenty of overs to go around. Meanwhile, the Stars saw overs in 5 out of their last 6 themselves on the road. Of course, that excludes Saturday night's Oilers game. That's actually currently in progress. 9-1 to the over in their last 10 at any location. Once again, excluding the Oiler game. I like the over 5.5. And with that, folks, we're going to jump into our next and final breakdown for the video. Islanders Ducks, 9 o'clock Eastern puck drop. The Isles are minus $1.25, totals 5.5. Jakub Skarek for the Isles, Lucas Dostal for Anaheim. Now, Dosty's got a .288 goals against average, .910 save percentage. And he's facing an Islanders team on the other side who's definitely struggled on the offensive end of the ice. They're averaging under 2.8 goals a game. Losers of 5 out of their last 7, excluding Saturday night Sharks contest. They're actually in action right now as I'm recording this video. Now, total-wise, the Isles did see a handful of overs in their last 10. 3 out of Anaheim's last 4 at the pond got over the total themselves. I like the Ducks, plus 105, over 5.5. And with that, folks, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap. Give me Drexel plus 3, under 122.5. Bucknell minus 6, over 140. We cashed in on 6 premium selections on my premium page on Saturday, with 1 game still in progress. I like the under 147 in that Michigan State matchup. Nebraska minus 6.5, over 155 and a hook. Florida Atlantic minus 5, under 152. Give me the over 143.5 in that Minnesota Rutgers matchup. Lipscomb minus 5.5, over 144 and a hook. American University minus 1, over 137. I like the under 157.5 in that UAB-TULN matchup. North Texas minus 5.5, under 136. Wichita State minus 11, over 143.5. Oregon minus 6.5, over 146. Charlotte plus 1, under 148. Texas A&M Corpus Christi minus 6, over 138. Give me Southeastern Louisiana minus 3, over 139.5. NBA over 242 in that Nuggets Thunder game. Over 228.5 in that Suns Mavericks matchup. Grizzlies minus 8.5, over 234 and a hook. Give me the over 224 in that Jazz Sixers game. Over 237 in the Cavaliers Bucks matchup. Spurs plus 10, under 229. Pistons minus 2, under 231. Kings plus 5, over 223.5. NHL Devils minus $1.45, over 5.5. Minnesota Wild minus $1.50, under 5.5 goals. I like the under 5.5 in that Jets Hurricanes matchup. Blue Jackets plus 1.5, over 6.5 goals. Golden Knights minus $1.65, under 5.5. Give me the over 5.5 in that Dallas Vancouver matchup. And give me the Ducks plus 105, over 5.5 goals. And with that, folks, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my premium page. And if you do end up getting a membership here today on my premium site, just a friendly reminder, you're going to get access to that membership every single day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships during that time frame, absolutely free. Going to be included with your membership. That's why I always tell folks, like I said at the beginning of the video, our Gold Club package, it's a full access, all-inclusive membership. Gives you access to every single premium selection of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. But most importantly, folks, gotta thank you for joining me right here on the free video. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And that's it, folks. Happy Sunday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my premium page.